What's going on everyone, Manny here, welcome back to the channel. I had a pretty rough climbing day yesterday. I checked out yet another 8B route, super bouldery, and you have to literally squeeze the juice out of a tiny little crux pinch. And in my last go of the day I slipped off that one and cut myself open on the thumb, something which never happened to me before. Anyway, as you can see, my skin could use a little bit of rest now, and that's why I decided to make a rest day today. It's been a long time since the last Q&A and we've reached 15,000 subs very recently, and so I thought, man, why not pick some good questions from you guys and answer them?
Who do you got in mind?
And as usual, I will try to spice up the voiceover with some footage, and this time it's going to be some rest day footage showing me going for a little shop, taking some Greek lessons at the Panjica, and ascending some mountain close to the village with Notis, a really cool guy from Leonidio who knows all the interesting places. So basically just a bunch of rest day activity, and yeah, alright, let's get into the questions. So first we've got a really interesting question about endurance. Hi Mani, loving the video content, you add something I might have asked in the climbing. I was wondering how you personally train endurance for these long sport routes, since you in your videos only train at a boulder gym. That's a really good question. I've made some videos some time ago showing me training endurance in the boulder gym. You can check them out if you like. This is just one approach how to do it, but yeah, I found it works quite well for me. It depends which kind of endurance we are talking about. If you mean aerobic endurance, then you can do, for example, some 30-minute traversing on really easy terrain, you know, just to get the usual super pumped feeling in your forearms, so that you get a lot of oxygen into your forearms, and this is going to increase your resting ability significantly. So if you're aiming for a little bit of more shakeout endurance, then 30 minutes of traversing, getting off the wall for, let's say, 10 minutes of rest and 30 minutes of traversing again. So the reason why I never do that in the boulder gym, which would be possible, let's face it, I could do it, but I usually don't, it's because it's just super boring. I really don't like this kind of training, and I have the feeling that once I am on a trip, on a route climbing trip, I get this kind of endurance just by climbing a lot of routes. Because, as for example here in Leonidio, there are quite a lot of routes with some rests in it, and when I just project them, make a few goes, you know, then you get this kind of shakeout endurance from alone and with some time. And I've talked about the acclimatization period a lot recently, and this is also part of it, you know. When you're coming from the boulder gym, you basically have zero endurance, and then you hit the rock with this kind of shape. And what is going to happen is you're going to pump out of all the endurance test pieces, of course, but with time, let's say 1 or 2 weeks, you will adapt to this kind of new stimulus, and once you have it, you basically can start sending hard. I've booked a week's trip to Kalymnos and looking ways to train endurance and can't get hold of any layer. I've started an exercise I called 5 on 5 off, where I boulder for 5 minutes without leaving the wall, then have a 5-minute break and repeat for a minimum 3 sets up to 6 depending on how I feel. Would you say this is an effective method, or am I just training power endurance? Again, depends on what kind of endurance you want to train. If you want to train aerobic endurance, it sounds like a bit of not enough time on the wall. As I said before, if you want to go for the aerobic stimulus, you have to be on the wall for 30 minutes and a very easy stimulus, get off for 5 to 10 minutes of rest and then 30 minutes again. Okay, so if you want to go for the power endurance stimulus, you have to have less time on the wall on a higher intensity. So let's say you could also do 4x4s, for example. It's basically picking 4 medium difficulty boulder problems, and you try to climb them as fast as possible back to back. You know, climbing the first one, getting off, jogging to the next one, climbing the next one, getting off the wall, jogging to the next one, climbing the next one, and jogging to the fourth, climbing this one, 4 minutes rest after such a set, and then repeat the whole thing again. And ideally you do 4 sets, and that's why it's called 4x4s. and always 4 minutes of rest in between. And this should get you in this really power endurance-y kind of pumped state, you know, where you have to do hard moves and you're already a little bit pumped, but you still have to execute some medium hard moves. You should know the problems, of course, very well if you want to execute such a training. This is the pure power endurance approach. So this would be a little less time on the wall, which you are suggesting here with your 5 on, 5 off approach. So what you are describing here is basically a mix or something in between power endurance and aerobic endurance. If I was you, I would decide whether the power endurance stimulus or the aerobic endurance stimulus is more important to me in the moment, and then I would decide, yeah, okay, I need more time on the wall or less time on the wall with some more intensity. Would you say this is an effective method of just training power, or am I just training power endurance? As I said, in my opinion, you're training something in between those two with this approach. Alright, let's move on to the next question. Manny, I love your videos. I have a question regarding this topic. Maybe you can help out. I'm a relatively new climber, less than a year, and have progressed up the grades quite quickly because of an athletic background. I've put a lot of time and focus in technique, but have found myself limited by finger strength on problems that I should be able to tackle based on technique and overall body strength, but not through finger strength. I've also found that because of this, the risk of getting a finger injury is much higher. Basically, I avoid crimpy routes where I need to put current level, have one crimpy that is too healthy for the fingers. Do you think hangboarding would be beneficial at this stage instead of just climbing, or are there other things you could try as well? I'm quite jealous of you being outside all the time. Keep up the good work. The first thing that comes to my mind is that a climber who climbs less than a year should actually not do hangboard training. Simply because the hangboard training is very intense. It's very intensive on the fingers, on your joints, your inner structures, and so on and so forth. And I think it's only going to promote injury. Even though you might have an athletic background, this probably had no influence on your fingers, and climbing is a very finger-intensive sport. You know, I had an athletic background as well when I started climbing, and I could progress quite quickly as well, but regarding my finger strength, I basically started from zero, because all the sports that I did before climbing had nothing to do with finger strength. So yeah, climbing is a very finger-intensive sport, so you have to start from zero again. Although, of course, a lot of body strength and, you know, technique and feeling for your body in general will definitely help you progressing faster. But I would not do fingerboard training when you climb less than a year. What I would do instead, what I would advise you to do is just climb a lot more routes, climb a lot more boulders. I don't know what you are currently doing most of the time, if you're training in a gym or training outdoors, bouldering outdoors, climbing outdoors. Whatever you want to do more of it, and don't necessarily avoid the crimpy stuff. Just try to climb the crimpy stuff without crimping. This is possible. You can use the 4 fingers open grip or the 3 fingers open grip, or at most the half crimp. You can check out my video about gripping technique if you are not familiar with different gripping types. There I explain how these look like and where they should be used, where they should be not used, and so on and so forth. So not necessarily avoid the crimpy problems, but do not crimp on the crimpy problems, and especially not if they are indoors, because that's gonna really ruin your fingers. So here you have it, climb a lot more stuff, get some more meters in, and when you're 2 years in, you still can start with your hangboard training, and it's going to be probably a lot better for your fingers because they are already better adapted to the climbing stimulus, and so on and so forth. So alright, let's proceed to the last question of today, and this one is about antagonist stuff and core. Hey man, awesome video. I wanted to know how you train the antagonist muscles and the core. I climb 3 days a week, and at the end of each session I will do 4 sets of push variations, handstand push-ups, dips, and 4 sets of leg raises on the bar. Do you dedicate a full session to core and antagonist? If not, what's your routine? Keep up the good work, dude. So during the preparation for this trip, the Greece trip that I'm currently on, I handled it this way. I made 1 antagonist and core session per week, and I did not actually dedicate 1 whole day for this session. I usually made the session after a bouldering session or after a campus sport session or whatever. I think one session was about 1.5 hours long. And what I did during these sessions, also some push variations, handstand push-ups, normal push-ups, and I also hit the rings quite hard. I made a video about that, and what I did as well is I hit the bar quite hard, and I made a video about that as well. So the bar session for intermediates is basically what I did most of the time on the bar. And what I also incorporated a lot into my core sessions is this backup machine. I always do it in front of longer rock climbing trips, because I know when I'm getting away from the 45-degree overhanging wall in my boulder gym, I don't use my body strength that much on routes, for example, unless they are super overhanging and in the roof. And let's be honest here, most of the routes are not in a super big overhang, are not 45-degree overhanging walls. So what I usually do before the trip starts is I incorporate those backups, because they hit the back really nicely, and they definitely give me the feeling that I increase my body strength during this training, and also the climbing relevant body strength, if you know what I mean, the back and the lower back and ass muscles and all that kind of stuff that you need if you want to step holds that are far below you in overhanging terrain, to keep your ass on the wall, you know, reduce the weight on your hands and all that kind of stuff. So that's basically it, my routine before a rock climbing trip. Once a week for 1.5 hours. I don't dedicate a whole day to it. I make it usually after a bouldering session or after a campus sport session or anything similar. And what do? I hit the rings, I hit the pull-up bar, I hit the backup machine, and I do push-up variations like handstand push-ups, normal push-ups, and all that kind of stuff. So that's basically it for this Q&A. I hope you've got something from it. Please keep posting interesting questions. If I don't answer them instantly, don't worry. I'm still in the state where I can at least read all my comments. So please keep posting interesting comments so that I can make interesting Q&As in the future. And as always, guys, if you've got something from this video, please leave a like and share your opinion in the comments down below. And until then, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. So loud. Okay.
Now it works better.
Cultivate